Hey, everybody, welcome to Conversations with Chosen Pen. It has been weeks since we hung out with you in this space, and we thank you so much for joining us, whether you're watching us live or via the replay. I am Dr. Anissa Short here, co hosting with the one, the only Dr. Norma McLaughlin, and you all have not seen her in forever. So, Dr. Norma, why don't you say hello to your friends and family so they'll know what you look like and sound like again?
Well, hello, Miss Anissa. It hasn't been that long, but I'm so happy to be back with you today. And we promise that we have some wonderful information coming your way. So just sit back, relax, listen, take notes, do whatever it is that you do. But please tag a friend so you can enjoy it. They can enjoy it with you.
Welcome to the month of August. It's a month that Chosen Pen has chosen to focus on childhood literacy. It's a big topic. It's one that Dr. Norma has been passionate about for years as an advocate for education. And I'm sure many of you that are watching fall in that category. In this month of August, we're focusing on childhood literacy from the perspective of interviewing those who are what I would like to call champions of childhood education from the vantage point of authors. So today we have an author. We'll have an author every single week of this month, those who have authored children's books. And of course, in September, should we continue with the theme, we've got educators and counselors that work with children. They are too going to bring to the table conversation about how they play a role in being components or champions of childhood literacy. So before we get started, though, I want to make sure you grab pen and paper and write down a date. September, the month of September, is the month that Chosen Pen has chosen, there's that word again, to celebrate its 10th anniversary. Chosen Pen Publishing will be 10 years old, actually in the month of October, but the celebration has been set aside for the 15th and 16th. We want you to be there. Now, I hope I said that right. Let me double check because I get to talking. Yes, the 16th is the grand celebration day. During that morning segment, we're going to have a Forbes platform of speakers talking about childhood literacy, sharing insight on entrepreneurship, and the forgiveness platform as from an absent father's perspective. That's going to be the morning segment. We don't want you to miss that. We've got some phenomenal people that we expect to be a part of all of that. And then that evening, show up with your let's see, your finest after five attire and sneakers, because we're going to have a banquet where Dr. Norma said, let's make it a sneaker ball. So we're going to be culminating everything on Saturday evening with that. We're going to have vendors. We're going to have authors. It's going to be a grand time. Dr. Norma, anything you want to share as it relates to the anniversary celebration weekend?
I just hope that all of you that I've had an impact upon will come out and share this celebration with me. I love to see each and every one of you. There are a lot of you out there floating around. Don't let me have to come find you.
I know, right? So if you want to secure your tickets to attend, if you're interested in being a speaker, if you want to be a vendor, go to chosenpen.com/events. Chosenpen.com/events. And when you go there, it'll bring you directly to the registration page so that you can register, secure your ticket. You and a friend, don't come alone, bring someone with you. If you want more information about how to be a speaker on the platforms and or serve as a vendor, all the information you need to know to position yourself for that is on the website. So now, without further ado, let's go ahead and meet our very first author. She is someone that we know. I met, I don't know, 2018. She'll have to tell you. Miss Nanette Buchanan is an author. She has her own publishing platform. She dabbles a little bit in the screen stage play. What was it? What would that be? Was it screenplay, stage plays? That's one and the same. Either way, Miss Nanette, welcome to the show. Thank you for saying yes to the invitation. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about who you are?
Well, you've introduced me as such a great thing. I don't know if I can follow that, even with the words that I know. As of 2018, I retired to Fayetteville, North Carolina, and I met Anissa and Dr. Norma, and I decided that I need to delve deep. Even with the pandemic, I kept trying to delve a little deeper into what was a passion and has been a passion of mine for years, and that's writing. Writing, doing my literary journey. I found that I have a niche. And one of the niches happens to be not only for novels, but for children's stories. I believe that as an author, we can't forget the fact that not everyone has access to or has the ability to understand everything from a writer's perspective. And we have to look at it from the reader's perspective. So I began to do things that were going to entice people and bring people in, no matter what the age. And one of the ages was dealing with children, dealing with the youngsters that look for something to take them out of their world too, because we say that all the time, that our reading takes us to another level, either in knowledge or in experience or just adventure and everything else. Why wouldn't we allow our children to have access to that?
That's
So
good.
I added to my repertoire of wanting to do, as a matter of fact, it went backwards. I should say that. I went from poetry to writing children's stories to then writing novels. And now I'm trying to do a parallel of writing for adults as well as writing for children.
Okay, so let's back up because when I met you, I don't think you had any children's books written. I don't think you did. You had written various novels. So let's
Mhm.
talk about what you have written in the way of novels. How many books have you written? What has your author journey? How has your author journey taken you from there to here to other places? And then why children's book?
Well, the journey actually started with poetry. That's where my actual journey started. I have 3 volumes of poetry, and I more or less am old school. So I would sit down on the stool and read the book rather than slam the book like a rap song. I can't. I no. I'm not going to do that. And I started that in college. So there are some poems that relate to today, issues of today, love stories, and everything else that I don't want to change the wording. So I read them directly as they are. I did have 5 children books written at that time. I wrote 5 stories for children. However, I can't draw. So I didn't know anything about the illustrators. How do you get an illustrator? How do you get this? How do you get that? Learning the experience. And I just said, you know what? I'm not dealing with that. I just want to do it for myself. Read it to my children, read it to the groups that I knew. After a personal crisis, I was forced into thinking, okay, what is an easy way to make money for small things? Not the big bills, but the small things. Well, if you sell some of your stories and you sell some of your poetry, you can make some of that money. Well, I went into writing novels. Since then, that started in 2007. Since then, I've written 13 books, which include 2 children books as well as um, novels and 1 self-help book. I do have a self-help book because I went through a crisis. I'm still going through it, but I went through a crisis and decided that I was going crazy. So how do you stop from going crazy? You talk about how crazy you are. So I had to write about your madness. How do we control some of our own personal madness for our health reasons? Why children's books? I always bounce back to children because I always believe children are our foundation. I don't think if we just a little, leave it where they learn whatever they want to learn. Leave it where they read whatever they want to read. Leave it where they understand through their understanding. Well, I'll be 66 in a couple of days, and I still don't understand this life journey. No matter how many books I read, or no matter what the genre is, I'm still not getting it right. So why not have it where we cover the whole scope of literacy? Meaning that although you read, you have to understand. So comprehension has to come in. Although you read, you have to be able to communicate. So communication has to come in. Social awareness. Who's your friends? What group do you follow? What do they understand? And why do they understand certain things? All of these things piqued my interest as far as children were concerned. Not so much adults, because we're out there living and hustling. Children aren't living and hustling, they're watching and they're paying attention to what we do and how we do. And they interpret it amongst their little friends. And sometimes they get it wrong. So we need these books sometime to show them morals, to show them respect, to show them the what may happen, the what will happen, to give them some type of platform of understanding. And the thing about it is we got to break it down. It can't always be in a school textbook.
That's good.
It can't be something that they're mandated to do. Because I know if someone mandated me to read some of those books I had to read in high school, I wouldn't have read them. I just would not have read all of that
Yeah.
Shakespeare stuff and all that. That wasn't my interest. And another thing that I think sparked me was I had two children, and my daughter was an avid reader. She loved reading as a child. She would take books to the park. You would tell her, put the book down and play, and she said, no, I'd rather read. But she also read to my son, who was just the opposite. He didn't want to read Dr. Seuss and all of those other books. He wanted to read Sports Illustrated. He wanted to read about the wrestlers. He wanted to read about the baseball players. He wanted to read about that. And I had a very, very intense conversation with a teacher who said to me he couldn't bring those books to read at recess. And I said, well, what's the problem? She said, well, they're above his level. And we don't think that he really understands what he's reading. And I had to explain to her that the words that are in the book, if interesting is in the book and he's on the second grade level and doesn't understand interesting, he also knows how to go look it up and find out what interesting is. But if the content of what he's reading is keeping him reading, he will branch off to other things.
That's good.
We can't jam them with stuff that they don't understand simply because we want to say, hey, this is not on the third grade reading level. This is not on the second grade reading level. So in my pioneering, I'm teaching morals. I'm giving them stuff to imagine, to use their imagination, teach morals, but I also want to teach that there's something within them that needs to come out. And some of that comes when you do a one-on-one with a book.
That's good. That's good. That's really good, Miss Nanette. I didn't know. What I've learned from you is that one is our responsibility. We all have a form of responsibility to encourage literacy with those around us. We also shouldn't limit ourselves to just what people think is typical. I mean, going to school and gaining the knowledge that you need to go from one grade to the next is fine, but there's a responsibility outside of the walls of the school. And then I love also what you said about the words. My mom was one that would, if we said, Mama, what does such and such mean? She'll say, go look it up.
Go look it up.
She never would tell us. She made us look it up. And we was like, well, she could have just simply told me what this word meant. But as a result of that, we became familiar with even the use of a dictionary. And we found that certain words have multiple meanings because we looked it up, So that in turn, of course, that causes you to graduate to another level of understanding, and your vocabulary broadens, and your literacy level increases. Kids who read are much further along. Now, Dr. Norma, you have been engaged in various aspects of education. Let's be clear for those who know you. What questions do you have for Ms. Nanette with regards to her passion and what she's doing as an author?
Well, not necessarily a question, but a great big agreement with her about getting children to read what they're at their level of interest. And if we have more teachers to understand that in the classroom, they're not all interested in whatever that is that we have to teach, that we are mandated as teachers in public schools to teach. And for our little boys, especially, they need to be able to read wrestling or whatever. The words are the same. They may come out differently for them, but it is something that they are interested in, and they will continue to read that. And I think that's a very, very important point. And something that I tell teachers all the time: meet them on their level and give them what they're interested in to read, and they will read, and they will continue to read.
And one of the things that I found out also, my son was in commercials, and he's done some acting and producing and everything. And he used to get back to back auditions. And I would tell the lady, running back and forth from New Jersey to New York, New Jersey to New York, New Jersey to New York, New Jersey to Philly, New Jersey here. And I said to her, well, I understand we're trying to get the work in, and he's trying to get the experience in. but why is it always the same 6 little boys? And she immediately said, because our boys don't read. And that hit me at that point, that we need to do more than have someone answer back that your generation, she didn't say a few, she said, their African American boys don't read. And I don't believe that. I just believe that there's a way, like Dr. Norma said, to pique their interest, to pique them to the point where they want to read, pique them where they are. And then the understanding for reading becomes vital, because out of all the things that you learn in school, reading and arithmetic is a constant.
That's true.
So we have to pique their interest enough so that they will learn to read contracts and open their mail and be able to handle their financial situations later in life. If they don't understand anything else, they have to understand that reading is fundamental.
It's
And
true.
you have to get that. You have to get that. I was really hurt when she said it, but I didn't have an answer back. I couldn't even say you're wrong, because it was evident. It was evident.
Right. Well, you know what, Ms. Nanette, you're making reference to a point in time when your son, who's now an adult with children himself, was a child. Fast forward, my husband currently works in an organization that offers after school and summer camp programs for children. And I can tell you it's gone from bad to worse. It's not in every instance, but one of the first things he noticed is he says, these children can't read. He says, in addition to that, not only can they not read, many of them could not even spell their own names. So
Yes.
the responsibility of literacy is not in the schoolroom. It starts at home.
At home.
It starts at home. And then everything else that is created or introduced builds upon what should start at home. But if the foundation is not there for reading, as you said, reading is where it starts. They can't read. They can't do math if they can't read. They can't sign contracts if they can't read. They can't apply for a job if they can't read. You know, they cannot read a map or directions on the GPS if they can't read. You know, so
exactly. And I think
literacy.
we've cut them too, because we've given them all of these shortcuts and all of these different things where they hit a button and it comes up. My granddaughter said to me, I can write you a letter. And I said, well, write a letter. And the letter seemed like it came from a 14-year-old, and she's just 7. And when she showed me was, if she puts in 2 letters, you know how it goes. The words come up. And if she recognizes the word, she can just hit the word. So we're showing them shortcuts, but in showing them the shortcut, we're still not teaching them.
Exactly.
We're still not giving them that fundamental. One of the things that I want to get done, and it's in the, as I call it, the incubator. I have a children's book, and everybody gets the alphabet book. Everybody gets the ABC book, you know, and they give it to the toddler, and A is for apple, and the baby is saying apple, and A and B, and then of course when they get to elemental P, they can't say it right, you know. So we're clapping with them and singing with them and everything. And I thought about it, and I said, and you know, that moment is a moment with parent and child, or a moment with parent and family and child. Someone is working with this baby to develop the skills that begin the foundation of literacy. So I decided that the book that I have done, I'm praying that it'll be published by the end of this year. When you flip that book from A as in apple, and you flip the page, how about it telling you, you are awesome, you are aware, you are whatever the A is, whatever the B is. But then when you flip it again, it says you can become an astronaut, you can become an astrologer. Now, what that does is it takes the book beyond the point of us throwing it away. And it takes it a little bit further. The words are a little bigger. But now they're learning a mantra. Now they're learning what they can be, who they are. Now we're encouraging them in something. So I'm looking to publish that book by the end of the year. But those are the type of children books that I write.
I love that. That was my next question for you was, what do you have next? So We'll be looking for that book. You answered that before I could even ask. Dr. Norma, any other question you'd like to ask Miss Nanette before as we close out?
Excuse me. No, I think, but I do want to add in that we make sure that we understand that some students or some boys, some girls, it's not that they cannot read. They may have some learning disabilities or such things as that, and that we become aware of that and just not sit that child at the back of the room and say that they can't read, but find a way to teach them, because we know that the majority of our kids today have dyslexia. So what is it that we need to do to ensure that those students have the means necessary to learn to read? What are the strategies? You need to be able to do more than just teach A is for apple and B is for
Exactly.
If there's another way that they need to learn, because we know that every child learns differently. And if that child needs another way, another means of learning, then you need to be able to do that. And I think we need to empower our teachers to do that as well.
That's good. That's really good. Well, this is today's segment. You see what we're all about, childhood literacy, and the conversation is going to continue throughout the remainder of the month. But don't forget our 10-year anniversary celebration, Chosen Pen's 10th year anniversary. Dr. Norma is excited about it.
Yes.
The work that's been established over these years. Of course, we're growing globally with Chosen Pen is the theme. So we're going to talk a little bit more about how even our childhood literacy or the literacy campaign goes beyond North Carolina. It goes beyond the United States of America. And Miss Nanette Buchanan will be one of the authors featured on one of our panels. We're excited to have her. Now, Miss Nanette, in closing out, give us your website for those who might want more information about your novels and or the children's books. How would they find you?
You can find me on Facebook and most of the social media sites. I finally gave in and joined Instagram and Pinterest. However, I do have a website, www.nanettebuchanan.com. And you will find all my books there, what I do, how I help others in the community with what they do. All of that information is there on that site.
That sounds great. Thank you again, Ms. Nanette, for being our guest today. Dr. Norma, any closing remarks?
No, I'm so happy to be back. Hopefully I will be with you for the remainder of this month.
We look forward to you being with us. Yes.
Yes, as we move forward in all that Chosen Pen America and Chosen Pen abroad, all the things that we're doing. So some of the literacy that you see us doing here, we're also doing in Africa. So join us again as we continue to spread the word and talk more about literacy. My goal is that every little boy, every little girl will be able to read by the time they leave the 3rd grade.
That's good. That's really good. Well, thank you once again for being with us today's episode of Conversations with Chosen Pen. The conversation continues. Be with us again next Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you miss us, follow Chosen Pen on YouTube, because all of our conversations are going to be stored there as well. And don't forget, share this with a friend or someone you know, because we want this community to grow. Thank you again for being our special guest, Miss Nanette. Thank you again, Dr. Norma. That is the end of our session for today, but we look forward to seeing you again next week. Same time, same place. Have a great Monday evening.